Welcome back to episode 4 of WhiskZ Talks, where we speak all things whiskey from people involved from the farm to the mouth and everything in between. Today's guest is someone who comes from an area rich with history in the whiskey world and someone who has just released a new bottle called The Governor. Josh Walker from Timboon Distillery. Mate, thank you for joining us.
No worries, mate. Good to be here.
So, something I ask everybody first off, what is their current bottle of whiskey that they're personally drinking? If it's one of your own, sweet, but what are you currently drinking?
Yeah, look, mate, I'm pretty lucky. We in our restaurant we have a large selection of all Australian whiskies, so we're stocking up at the moment because we're just about to reopen back up. So I've got a fresh delivery of Sullivan's Cove at the moment. So I was lucky enough to get onto a few bottles of that. So just sampling some of their wares at the moment.
Is there any chance a 21-year-old?
Mate, the pockets aren't that deep. I'm just a double cask boy. So
nice. I've just seen a few things on Instagram. A lot of the bars reopening, and they're all of a sudden they've got Cobbler and Death and Taxes. They got the 21-year-old. I'm thinking I need to get onto that. Mate,
no.
So I spoke about how your area is fairly rich in history of whiskey and everything like that. There was history of moonshine, and you've even named bottles after people involved in it. Can you give us a bit of a history lesson of the area and the bottles?
Yep. Yeah, look, there is a lot of history in our area, and our story always relates back to that. We try and honour the guys that did it a long time ago. And yeah, look, the short story, I suppose, is there was a fellow by the name of Tom Delaney, and he was a moonshiner and making what he called Mountain Dew back in the days. And it was all bootlegging, basically. So he had a team of people going around and selling it. He had multiple stills and actually supported a lot of the farmers in the area because he was buying their barley and their wheat and stuff, and was a bit of a little industry. The coppers cracked onto it because they weren't getting their share of the excise. So they sent a fella by the name of John Christie down from Melbourne, and the local coppers couldn't catch him. So John Christie went undercover, took a different avenue, and he posed as a travelling handyman and went around to all the farmhouses and the pubs and overheard the locals talking and got involved. And basically there was a bit of a shootout at Bocky Creek, where Whiskey Creek Road is now, and that's where they caught Tom Delaney with a still, and then they took the still over, and they posted a £20,000 reward for his capture, which was huge back in the day, and that's what put Timboon and Naranda on the map for illicit whiskey distillation. And basically we relate our story at Timboon back to that now.
But legally doing it now.
Mate, we are paying the excise man, trust me.
Yeah, I don't think the government will let you go in this day and age. So you've got a couple of bottles named after, obviously you've got the Christie's Cut, that's the port expression, the Christie's Cut. Do you have any other bottles named after anyone else that's been involved in history?
Yeah, so we have a really limited release about 4 years ago. We named Tom's Cut, and that was just a one-off bottling that we did, a really special barrel we had. We've got Christie's Cut, which is a permanent line, and that sort of is the story kicker for us. So we always explain what John Christie did in the cellar door when we're doing tastings. With Baxter's Irish Cream is another one. Jim loves Strawberry Snaps. Some of our other lines, not the whiskey, we relate back to that as well, because everyone that comes through our cellar door isn't always a whiskey drinker, and we try and intertwine that story in all our products, not just our whiskey. So yeah, so it all relates back. There is a really good book that we sell in-house too that gives you the full rundown of all the stuff that happened in about 1890.
Okay, cool. You've also got Limoncello, which I only discovered probably about 8 months ago at an Italian restaurant. So I'm kind of keen to, on my next order, I'll be getting a Limoncello as well.
Yep. Yeah, we do a limoncello. We get the guys to go out and raid a few of the local farmers' lemon trees and swap them a few bottles of limoncello for about 20 kilos of lemons. And yeah, the guys in the kitchen team hate me because they have to peel them all, but we freeze the zest and yeah, distill off a bit of sugar, and we've got limoncello. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So since you started in this journey and being involved in Timboon, what's kind of one of the biggest or the greatest lessons that you've had during the production, or just your whiskey kind of lesson?
Yeah, look, I suppose I place a big emphasis on our casks. So on the timber is it does a lot of 75%, I believe, of the flavour comes from the barrel. So we've actually started our own cooperage now, and we inspect every barrel that comes through. And buying in barrels all the time, you don't always know what you're getting. You buy them off the cooperage and you fill them up with whiskey, and you got to hope that it's going to be good in 5 years' time or 8 years' time or whatever it's going to be. And having that knowledge now of what you're actually putting your spirit into has been a really, really good thing for us to weed out some of the poor barrels, I think that won't perform well, and also find out some really good ones. It's really surprising what we're getting in from different wineries now. So we buy the barrels direct from wineries, split them down, shave, char, put back together, fill them with our new mate, and we control that part of the process now. So at the start, we were just filling barrels, taking the cooperage's word for it, basically. Now we can actually know what we're putting all our new mate into. So that's probably been our steepest learning curve. The actual distilling of it is quite rudimental, and it happens. It's production basically, but a lot of the flavour comes from the barrel, and now we know exactly what we're putting in, our spirit into.
Yeah, it'd be obviously someone that just enjoys the drink and going through this journey and talking to people that are actually distilling it. There's so many different avenues to learn, and that's the first one about the cask stuff. But such obviously a really important thing, because if you're getting bad casks, you're not going to get great whiskey at the same time.
And the thing is, you don't know. You don't know until you're 5 years down the track, and all of a sudden, you've got this heap of whiskey there that you don't think's right to sell. So you've got to do something with it. And luckily, we haven't got to that point yet, but and hopefully we never do, because we're controlling that process, from the start. So,
expensive learning curve. So what's kind of your average day for you, and like what's your role at the actual distillery?
So it changes a fair bit, but so we have about 25 staff at the cellar door, and in our a couple of those are in the production team, but predominantly our staff are at the cellar door in the restaurant. So I oversee the operation of that, and I'm trying to remove myself off the floor as much as possible now. And the average day for me now is mashing in. So we're doing all our own wash there now. So we mash in the morning, try and get into the distillery and just check in with some of the team there. So the chef and and our cellar door manager. And then I control all the downstream. So when we're dropping casks, I'm doing all the cuts and dilutions there, and then Mum and Dad do all our bottling. So you'll see all our bottles are handwritten. So they control our bottling. So I'll check in with those. Yep, there it is. I think can't see that's Dad's handwriting, school teacher handwriting. So
there you go.
That's the old boy. So I just sort of check in with those guys, and we've got a really good team that I can just check in, see, fix any problems, and keep on making whiskey. So we've also installed our wash still in the middle of the restaurant now. So we've got 2 stills running and doing all our own mashing. So it's really good that I can just really focus on our production now rather than looking after the restaurant as much.
Yeah, good. So are you still using, and please if I've got this wrong, but from my very small amount of research, are you still using 20-litre barrels, or have you gone to bigger barrels? Or if you haven't, are you looking to go to bigger barrels at some stage?
Yeah, none of our whiskey is in 20-litre barrels. We do quite a few private casks. So we've got a release on at the moment for we do 20 barrels a year, so 10 in May or June, and then 10 later in the year. And all our port expressions in 100-litre barrels or bigger, and there's a pooch.
Yeah, that was the noise that you might have heard. There he goes.
And all our Christie's cut is in 225-litre barrels and bigger. Looking to stretch out that maturation. One more for the yield rather than the number on the label. When you're dumping a 100-litre barrel, it doesn't go that far anymore. You need to be dumping 225s and 300-litre barrels to get the economy back up to where it should be. So, no no 20-litre barrels anymore, apart from the private casks and a few little play barrels, experimentals that I do as well. So
Okay, cool. So what are your preferred barrels to use?
Barriques, so 225s, and mainly now it's all hogsheads, 300-litre hogsheads. Looking that maturation is always sort of between 3 and 8 years now. I've got some 10-year-old stuff there as well that we haven't released yet in bigger barrels. That's a second fill, so some of those second fill barrels take longer to age out. So that's sort of our barrel format now.
So if you had the opportunity to get any barrel you possibly could in the world that's had some kind of thing in there, and people have said tequila before or maple syrup and that kind of stuff, what would be like your ultimate barrel that if it was just, unlimited money or just dropped on your lap, what would you be looking for?
I was going to say maple syrup, but you already took that one off me, mate. But we do have a couple of maple syrup barrels that we put down a few years ago that are coming along okay. I think people get swept up a little bit in all those, people are doing all sorts of different sorts of barrels. And I suppose I haven't really experimented too much. We're just sticking with the status quo of just making good whiskey consistently all the time. And we haven't really experimented too much. We've really only just released a little bit of peated stuff in our Governor's Reserve last start. So while we're quite an older distillery, we haven't really pushed the boundaries too much in our experimental range yet. Just sort of focused on doing our core range. And I suppose the maple syrup, mate, is what I sort of look for, and we'll see how it turns out.
Well, good thing is you're already doing one, so that's pretty good. So you mentioned before about Tom's Cup, was it?
Yep.
Okay. So back in 2018, you did a Sydney Whisky Fair exclusive called the Shaggers Reserve.
Yep.
And it was about, a 69.7%? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Have
you done any other show exclusives? And do you have anything else in the works or something like that coming up with potentially with COVID happening? Was there anything that was supposed to be released that you're kind of doing that might be released out for other people?
Yeah, well, the Shaggers is one that we did in a 20-litre barrel, actually. So that is one of the exceptions. And we did it again last Whisky Fair, last year. And it just so like people were queuing up for it the second time because they love that big, bold 69% in a little barrel that had probably been aged a little bit longer than what it needed to be in those little casks. And it went really well. It's funny, like normally we're dropping barrels quite regularly, like between every 4 and 6 weeks, and I haven't dropped one now in 3 months. It's June now. March was the last one we dropped. So we are looking to just put some into plastic pretty soon because it's going to start to over oak in those barrels. Although in the winter now it's probably not such an issue, but if it was summer, we'd be definitely looking at it. We do have some musket barrels coming up that we were looking to release that maybe at an event later in the year. That just depends on how we go. And we do have some sherry, some Ep4 barrels that we've never done at Timboon before. So there's a few little things coming up, but that's about it probably.
Interesting. Okay, well, if there's another Shaggers Reserve coming on, I'll put my name up for those at 67. Now, what the hell is a Timboon Slam?
The Timboon Slam was a bit of a show. So Whiskey, Wine and Fire. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. It happens every year about this time, actually, June or July in Melbourne at Caulfield. And our distributor, Nip of Courage, wanted to do something different, which they always do, and get a bit of attention to our stand. And we got a stack of Tim Tams in, and basically shot of Port Expression, snap a Tim Tam in half, dunk it in, and suck the whiskey through the Tim Tam, mate. And it's pretty damn good. So
right. So
it went off at the show.
I've still got the unopened Port Expression because I've got the man flu still. It's nearly been 2 weeks, so I'm not getting on. Yep, still going. So I've got no smell, I've got no taste or anything like that. So I'm not even drinking any whiskey at the moment. There's really no point. And the special one you've got me still in there. I haven't been able to Haven't opened it yet to try and get into it. So I will try that. I reckon that's pretty awesome.
Mate, get the Christie's cut onto the man flu. It does a pretty good job on it.
I did try. Yeah, definitely had some already earlier on. So back in 2016, Lonely Planet put you as one of the top 7 places to visit food in its food trail guide. What makes your restaurant so special then? Because obviously you're not just doing whiskey, you are focusing on the local food as well.
Yeah, so in our area we have a really good selection of fresh local produce, and we have a passionate group of 12 Apostles food artisans, we're called, which all produce artisan products: cheese, chocolate, ice cream, beer. We have our own beef farm as well, so we grow our own beef for our restaurant, and we also have a really talented chef called Simon Yaram, and he can do some amazing things with food, and it's not too complicated. It's really good, simple, fresh food, and we use just all local produce in our area. And I think that probably sets us apart from quite a few places. We used to do, fish and chips and burgers and all this stuff that's straight out of the freezer into the fryer. We have a tiny little kitchen, household freezer. We don't store anything frozen anymore. It's just straight out of the cool room, cooked up fresh, and on a plate and straight out. And that every dish has something within 100 k's of our area. So I think that's probably set us apart from all the other pubs and that sort of thing. And it matches into our whiskey as well. We're doing pork bow buns and slow cooked beef and pulled lamb and those sorts of things, just using a local producer in each dish. So and we have our governors boards as well. So we have a release 2 or 3 times a year, and we have these governors boards, which are just a selection of local produce with house baked bread and that sort of thing, and they're really popular. So
yeah, because I saw on the Instagram you guys did some beautiful roast duck or something like that on one of it, and I was just like, yeah, that's it. So
yeah, it's another one.
As someone that, as I said to him earlier off camera, I'm from Ballarat anyway, so I know the area semi-well. One of the things I really hate about Queensland is the fact that there's no food trail, or there's no amazing food places like what Victoria does. And Warrnambool has just shot up over the years since I was a kid and left as a food place, and obviously close to you is, and there's a big food trail around the place. And it's kind of nice to kind of, connect back and get to those places when you can, and just have a good food trail all the way through. So not bad raps to have for Lonely Planet to give you guys a shout out.
Yeah, and look, we're just really lucky to be part of a group of artisans that work together. We meet every month. We met 2 nights ago, and everyone's really passionate about what they do, and it gets a little bit heated sometimes because we're all trying to do different things. But I think that's the strength of our group, that we're so passionate about making good quality produce. And the secret is that all our producers are really close. You can do it all in a day. So there's 10 producers. You can drive and see every one of them in one day from the 12 Apostles, and that's the kicker for us. People come to the 12 Apostles in the morning, and then they look for something to do during the day, and they can come around and see everyone and taste and sample and take stuff back to Melbourne. So it's we're lucky where we live, and we're lucky that we're close to a big stack of limestone rocks too, mate.
Yeah, that's good. So with COVID, obviously you were very restricted, and like everybody was. Have you seen, since obviously Victorian restrictions are a little bit different from Queensland at the moment, but you've just recently reopened your restaurant again, and actually bringing people back in to the tours?
So we actually traded right through. We never closed, but we weren't able to do like a dine-in service. So we've been able to open the restaurant about a week ago. And look, it's challenging, I suppose, only having 20 people in there. It's not what we're used to on a long weekend. I think we probably turned 200 or 300 people away on the weekend just because we didn't have the capacity to seat them. So it's better than nothing though. Like I'm definitely not complaining. You got to start somewhere, and we'll build out of this. I think people have been really good though in supporting us in the whiskey as such. So people buying online and coming over and buying a bottle of whiskey, and buying our beef and that sort of thing. That's kept us going, and hopefully we'll come out the other side you know, in a better position. So.
We've got a good name, and as you said, if people are lining up and you've got to turn them away, hopefully, you know, they remember that, you know, there is a restriction, and it is about, you know, it's not about you guys not wanting there. It's just about the restriction at the moment, and then they come back later on.
That's right. Yeah. I know it sort of breaks your heart a little bit because everyone's trying to come in and they're trying to help you out and spend money, but we just couldn't serve them because it wasn't a thing. So
with that, because obviously you guys have been around, you've got a really good name and talking to a lot of different people. Like, so I found you on Facebook. I basically put up that I was doing the 31 Australian whiskies. I need some Australian whiskies to that I need recommending, and someone basically said, "Yep, Timboon." I didn't even look at anything. I didn't look at reviews or anything like that. I just bought 2 bottles and you sent them through super fast. So thank you for that one. So as I said, you've got a really good name in the sense of social media. A lot of people do follow you and really talk about it. So have you had any famous people come out to the distillery at all? What's the most famous?
We've had James Rain out. He's done a bit of an interview on postcards and that sort of thing, right back in the early days. Oh, Gary Ablett was down later last year. So
hang on.
Big Gaz.
Big or junior?
Nah, junior.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
as a Collingwood fan here, it doesn't matter.
No, Gary Ablett. No, I think that's about all we've got. I'm just asking Caitlin. No, I think that's it. I think we're out of Gary Ablett.
So talking about AFL, who do you go for?
Yeah, I'm a Cats man, so that was handy.
Same as my dad. He's from Geelong, so Cats all the way through, and I'm unfortunately Collingwood. So don't hate me for that one. So last question before we wrap up. What's a whiskey moment or an event or something like that you kind of sit back, you could be sitting back having a whiskey yourself, and you basically just smile about it? It's something that's like really special about whiskey, and it could be from, you know, when you've got your first bottle produced, or, you know, something when you were 16, you escaped from home and had whiskey without your parents knowing. What's like a really special moment for you in whiskey?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we've got the cellar door. People come in and do tastings during the day, and I can be there just going about my business, dumping a still or reloading one, and one of our staff members will be doing a tasting, and to hear just natural feedback, I suppose, about a product without them, having any bias, I suppose, is one of the great pleasures, I suppose, of what I do, is making a product that people come in, they try it, they like it, they buy it, they take it home and enjoy it and share it with their family and friends. It's a really simple, plain, unexciting thing for me, but well, not for me, but probably for your answer to the question. But yeah, to hear just someone not knowing that I'm there, talking freely about them liking the product and them actually handing over their hard-earned money to buy our whiskies. Yeah, it's one of the most enjoyable things you can do day to day.
Well, I fully respect that, because that you've created something, and what you've created, other people are enjoying. And people, I was speaking to someone the other day, people were saying that whiskey is, I'm an artist because I produce whiskey. I produce something that people enjoy. People enjoy music. Now I produce something that they whiskey. So I fully respect that. But I don't think I asked you, what actually got you into whiskey?
Yeah, interesting story. So I ran a contracting business for about 10 years before I got into whiskey distilling. So had balers and crop year and tractors and all that sort of thing. And me and Caitlin, my partner, were over traveling in the States. So we'd done backpack through Central America and finished in the United States. And we traveled through the Kentucky, the Bourbon Trail up there, and just this is back in about 2014, so it's a while ago now, but we could see that there was this craft boom of distilling happening over there. So the craft beer had already gone through, and the craft distilling was following that on. And we always knew that America was always a little bit ahead of Australia, 5 or 10 years. And Australia at the time had, there's little breweries popping up everywhere. And we thought, well, I think there was only 30 distilleries in Australia at the time, and we had one already in our hometown, Timboon. And we knew it was for sale before we left. So we jumped online and checked it out, and we made an offer on the distillery over in Kentucky, basically, and signed contracts and that sort of thing, and got to do a little bit of homework, I suppose, and training over there in Kentucky. Flew home in March, I think it was, and sold all the tractors on Facebook while I was over in America. All the balers and everything was all gone. Turned them into barrels of whiskey, and 2 months later we were in a 120-seat restaurant and a whiskey distillery, and the rest is history, mate. So it's a bit of a whirlwind. I suppose I saw an opportunity, and the stars aligned with it being for sale already at home. I grew up and went to school in Timboon. I didn't move to Timboon. It was just one of those things that it all sort of clicked for us. And lucky enough, we had mum and dad as a power of attorney and was able to sign the contracts. So it's all happened pretty quick.
I get in trouble when I buy a bottle of whiskey when I go travelling, not a bloody distillery. So.
It's the best thing I've ever done. I was at a point in that business where I had to either stay in it for another 10 years and invest and employ more people, or get out while we could and go into something that was totally different.
Man, that's awesome. Well, that's a little bit of a different story from what I've got from most people. So that's pretty bloody awesome that traveling is something that I've got a lot of love for, is traveling and experiencing the world and seeing what they do otherwise and trying to bring what they do over the world back into Australia into that. So opening up a distillery, that's probably the best one I've ever heard of traveling. Mate, thank you so much for your time tonight. I know, running a distillery and getting back into COVID, you've had a lot of work to be doing. So thank you so much for joining me. Anybody that's watching this, I've already done reviews on this. Go and see them. I'll tag them in. My Christie's Cut, I love the Christie's Cut. It's a heavy hitter at 60%. I call it, it's not for rookies, but you can actually, if you're not used to drinking, it's very smooth and you just don't even really understand that it's 60%. It's quite a good drop. So if you are looking to have a look, or if you're down the area and you want to go and see it, go to their website. It's basically the name, timboondistillery.com.au. And I'm sure Josh will welcome you at the door, mate. Again, thank you for joining us.
No worries, mate. Thank you. And I hope everyone's safe out there, and we'll see you at the distillery soon.
All right. Thanks, Jab.